Okay, good evening and welcome to the Finance Committee meeting. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Capel?
Here.
Mrs. Cooper? Yes. Mrs. Crawford?
Here.
Mr. Goes?
Here.
Mr. Grumney?
Here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
With 6 present, we have quorum.
Okay. We have minutes from the July 15th meeting. Looking for a motion to approve.
Almost.
Motion by Mr. Ghost.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Long. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Goes?
Yes.
Mr. Long? Mr. Grumney?
Yes.
Mr. Capel?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start right out of the gate with the quarterly investment review, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Steffen.
Thank you, Mr. Grumney. On page 5 of your packet, we have our quarter 2 2026 investment review. This is as of June 30th, 2026. And as you recall, every 3 months we go through this investment review just to give you an overview of where we stand. As of June 30th, our total cash investment balance was just under 26 million, about 27.5. About 36% of that was sitting in Star Ohio and First Commonwealth Bank, and the remaining was sitting in securities with Fifth Third Investments. And the breakdown is just below that. First Commonwealth Bank had 5.9 million, Star Ohio about 3.4, and Fifth Third Securities about 16.3 million. And I've added the historical percentage yields over for 2024 through July of 2026, just to depict where the interest rates are and where they have been for the 3 different accounts that we have our money sitting in. And it's interesting to look at the Star Ohio and Fifth Third Securities line. Those are the red and green lines. They kind of follow each other pretty closely, especially during 2025. And then as you can see this year, Star Ohio did dip below and looks like it's going to stay below Fifth Third Security. So that just goes to show the investment strategy to keep funds in there while Star Ohio was performing well and to move them out of Star Ohio and into Fifth Third Securities is proving to be a good decision at this point. So happy to report that. Of course, I'll continue to look at those percentage yields over time.
Quick question on that. So, we have approximately 6 million in First Commonwealth, and that's taken, I understand the numbers to the left aren't spread out that far, but it's gone from roughly, let's say 4.8% to 2.9%. Is that something, because it's a steady decline like the others, however, the others seem to kind of be plateauing a bit maybe, and First Commonwealth continues to kind of go down. Is there a reason? Should we reevaluate that? Should we look to move monies?
Well, it's interesting. Those 2 lines, that Star Ohio and First Commonwealth, kind of follow each other really closely there too. So I think that they have similar investment patterns. So that goes to show why they're tracking so closely to one another. I will say our First Commonwealth Bank our accounts sitting in there are more of our operational. So we use that money to pay current funds or bills and payroll and things like that. And it's sitting at 5.9 million, primarily due to the influx of cash that we had this year from the bond for the J.R. Smith Park. Typically, we like to keep this balance around $2 or $3 million, but it's high right now because we have a lot of money from that project that hasn't yet been paid to the contractor. But as far as the differences between First Commonwealth and Star Ohio, they can be kind of used in a similar way. They're both overnight liquidity accounts. So I could not use Star Ohio at all and just keep it all in First Commonwealth, or vice versa. Well, actually not vice versa, because we need the checking account in First Commonwealth to be able to pay bills and things. So that's the reason, and diversification as well. We like to make sure that our funds are diversified.
Sure. But I know you've said this in previous meetings that we were expecting that rates were going to start to drop. And so obviously that's what we're seeing. Do you see it dropping any further, or I'm asking you a crystal ball, I guess, but do you feel confident that it might have bottomed out and maybe?
I don't feel confident saying anything like that. But if you do look at the second page of my investment report on page 6, I do list some economic updates So we can look at the history and see what is being projected kind of based on those bullet points there. So there is some discussion about the fourth bullet point down there. The market has already begun to reprice Fed expectations. So I'm not sure that the rates are going to be declining as the Fed had originally thought earlier in the year, just based on that. Again, I don't make any predictions. I just read what the professionals say whenever it comes to investments.
Right. But this interest rate drop isn't unexpected.
Not unexpected.
All right,
No,
right,
we were
okay.
anticipating that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Questions? Yeah. Back to the first page at the bottom, just the holdings report as of 6/30, and this is the Fifth Third Securities report. You can see that the weighted average life is about 3.5 years, and the current book yield is just over 4%. So we're still getting a very good yield there. And just another pie chart on the next page, and then again, those economic updates that I mentioned there for your information. The next 3 pages of the investment report detail all of our Fifth Third Securities funds and investments, including the settlement date, the market value, and the book yield. So you can track along to see where all of those investments are and when they will be coming due.
So one of the costs, so when I look at the original cost and the market value, all the market values are slightly lower than there is. Are there fees associated with the purchase? Is that why it's a little lower?
Original cost and market value.
Yeah, on page, I guess this is page 7.
Mhm.
When you look at the
Yeah, I see. That's usually
yeah.
original cost and market value. That's a great question. I'm not really sure why the difference is there. I have to ask
Okay.
Brian Carter. I'm sure there's an explanation.
All right, okay.
I can get you an answer on that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I typically use this report to look at the settlement date and the book yield just to see what we're going to be selling soon, or what will be called if it is a callable security. I don't typically pay attention to those values, but good question, and I will reach out.
Okay, appreciate it. Any other questions on
All I
that?
have for the investment review.
Okay. All right, if there's no other questions, then
One, just clarification on these. When maybe I'm not that familiar with, we'll say, these bonds. When is it the call date, right?
Date. Mhm.
Do you have to act at that time, or can you wait?
We can wait. There's no requirement to act.
Okay,
Mhm.
until maybe there's a better interest rate than what is currently there.
Yes.
Okay,
Definitely.
thank you.
okay. I think that can take us on the employee handbook revisions.
Thank you. On page 10, I have a little memo regarding the employee handbook that I'd like to discuss today. The employee handbook is in your packet, pages 11 through 46, roughly. As you recall, we did review this in sort of some detail at the last Finance Committee meeting. Went through some of the various changes, some additions that we're making to the handbook. And since that meeting, some questions arose, and I did consult with our strategic HR partner to further refine the handbook. And those further revisions are listed on page 10. So I'll just go through those to give us some comfort over what has been done to the employee handbook. So the employment section, which I refer to page 7 of the handbook, we did modify that to include only federal and state law protected classes. Also on page 7, under employment classifications, there was a question about the 30-hour requirement for a part-time versus full-time employee, and that was clarified by our HR partner that 30 hours is a requirement by the ACA for insurance benefits. So that's the answer for there. The third item, the FMLA eligibility, this is on page 23 of the handbook. We did remove some verbiage there, but we are still in compliance with the law. The next two refer to different types of leave that employees may be entitled to, specifically election official and emergency services. These are both required by the Ohio Revised Code. That's why they're included in the handbook. And finally, the Reasonable Accommodations Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. That's also required by the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission. And that's why that language is included in the handbook, pages 30 and 31. These changes that I just talked about were not all of the changes. Again, we did go through a lot of those changes at the last meeting, but this will not be on your agenda for council tonight. We're hoping to put it on council agenda for a near future meeting.
Question, Dana, on page 17 of the packet, page 7 of the handbook. So I see we have blue lined items, and then below that we have a purple or red line about immigration law. So that's, I'm guessing, was stricken. Well, if I see a line through it, doesn't matter the color, right?
It does not matter.
There's a line through it, it's been removed.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure why they're different colors. Probably just due to different reviewers. Multiple reviewers in a document. I imagine that's why.
That's the reason that happens. I did just want to add that, so I think there was a little bit of concern about these additional provisions that, again, they had not been in chapter 139. What I'd asked Dana to do, again, reach out to our HR specialist, again, just to make sure that we weren't layering in some benefits and or responsibilities that weren't required by some, legal authority. There are a few items in the employee handbook that are some additional benefits. I think we talked a little bit about those the last time. For example, there is a provision that allows city employees to purchase a plot in our cemetery, at the city resident level after a year of employment. So there are, which had been a practice in the past, but had never been captured in chapter 139. So there are those types of things as well. But again, what Dana is trying to highlight here are kind of these, these additional legal requirements that have been added, because I think that's really where most of the questions in the last round of discussion were about. So, yeah. So we do have asked Dave Breen to do a final review on it. You'll see a note in there. There is a reference to legal counsel review as it relates to social media, the social media policy. So that's why we're not quite ready yet to bring it to council, but expect to be able to do that in 2 weeks.
Are these track changes based on last time we reviewed this, or is this all the changes we've made
These are just the changes based on last review.
since the last review?
Yes.
Well, what you're saying, what's on the memo is from the last review, but the track changes, those are capturing changes all along the way to the document. So that actually has multiple changes in it. Right. I mean, from kind of the first, I think, iteration of what we've worked about internally, or worked with internally.
Okay, so what I'm looking at right now, is that all the changes we've made?
Yeah.
In the
Okay,
actual handbook itself?
Yeah.
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and as a reminder, this is a new handbook for the city. So the old model, and that's why it's taken a little bit longer. I mean, all of these provisions used to be in the codified ordinances, and they're still in the codified ordinances at the moment. What we're going to ask council to do is take them out of the codified ordinances, place them in a handbook, and adopt the employee handbook moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions about the handbook? All right, thank you, Ms. Neppen. I think we can take time for the year-to-date comparison reports.
Thank you. On packet page 47, this will be our standard report that you've seen all throughout the year, every month. We are through July, so we're looking at month 7 of 12 at 58.33% of the year. I will go through just the highlights. In the general fund, which is on page 47, there's nothing really to highlight there. We've gone through all these in the past and no real changes to call out. Same thing for actually all the revenues. There's not really much to talk about, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip past revenues unless there are any questions on the revenues. We're collecting in every department and fund as we should be, as expected.
One question, like if I look at building permits, we're at 153%, just paying out that out. So is it to assume that that'll level out, or are we just collecting more than we anticipate? Is that a timing thing, or is that we're ahead of the game?
Ahead of the game on that
Okay.
one. Yes, that 90,000 that was budgeted appears to be a low budget,
Right.
low ball budget, so
Okay,
yes.
great.
Any alarming, expense grab you with these reports, Dan?
On the expenses,
Mhm.
I don't believe I have anything on the expenses to discuss. We will go through the yellows on the expenses next. So if we're ready to go on to expenses, I
I think
can.
we are, yeah.
Great. So expenses start on page 51 of your packet. And again, I'll go through the yellow highlighted items. These are the ones that we've identified to be above the threshold for discussion. So for the towing expenses, a minor amount, 27 vehicles have been towed. We're probably going to exceed that $3,500 budget. Cruiser repair under that, we're at 72% collected. I will say that the $7,592 paid to repair cruiser number 98, which was an insurance claim, by the way, if we eliminate that amount from the year-to-date expense, we're going to bring that percentage down to 34%, which is much more in line with budget. So if you just forget about that $7,500 expense, since it was a insurance reimbursement, that would be the right way to think about that line.
Yeah, this may be a question for Daryl, I don't know, but do we know how many out of the police vehicles we have, how many are leased and how many are still owned?
Least?
Cause I think our goal was to get to a point where we don't have to worry about big expenses on vehicles, but
Mhm.
that's a kind of catch you off guard question. So I was just curious if we're still working our way towards that goal or.
I believe that's still the goal.
Yeah, I would agree. We'll go back and confirm the numbers on that. But yeah, the policy shift has been to lease vehicles in the near term, and that is still
the
direction we're
okay.
taking.
And no rush. I mean, I don't want to create extra work. I'm just curious if that's still the model we were going towards, and that's good enough. I'm just curious yeah. All right, thank you.
Yes. The next yellow item on page 51 is supplies in the zoning department. It's a minor item, so not much to talk about there, just a little bit over where we expected to be at this point, but that's just a timing issue. On the next page, in the total land and buildings department, we're still in general fund. 3 yellow highlighted lines here. The first one is contractual services for land and buildings. We're about 68% spent. Just a little bit high spending there. We've spent $22,000 on arborist services. Utilities were 26,000, 9,000 on safety and security, and about 18,500 on landscaping. So I believe this one is purely a timing issue. We do have a lot of landscaping expense in this line this time of year. So I do expect that the spending will slow down and will remain within budget. Electronic charging station, we've talked about this at length.
Yeah.
Again, we're a little bit higher than where we expect to be, and still pending a review on that.
Where is that? I'm not seeing that for some reason.
It's on page 52, in the middle of the page, in the yellow section.
I'm sorry, I see.
Okay. And directly under there, we have supplies, land, and buildings. We're at 70% spent. Just some large expenses here. We had to buy a pond aerator for a Prairie Run pond for $5,500. We repaired some steps at Old Church parking lot, and a few other various repairs around the city is driving that line. But I do expect that to remain within budget for the end of the year. Next below there is the DTAC, a very minor expense. I'm just going to skip that one. Repairs and maintenance down towards the bottom. This is in the streets department in the general fund. We're at 71% spent. And this is primarily not overspent, but over budget tracking for the Western Star repairs. Page 53, we're moving on to the street fund expenses. The first highlighted item there in yellow is the debt service for principal. And this is due to 2 annual payments on the OPWC loans. So this is fully spent for the year and there will be no more spent against that. For capital highway, we're at 97% spent, and this is due to the Safe Streets and Roads for All roadway action safety plan timing issue on those expenses. Toward the bottom, we have 80% spent in the COVID-19 fund. This is all for J.R. Smith Park construction. And as you know, the park is moving along. We're getting things constructed over there and dirt's being moved. So there has been work and therefore we have been paying bills. We've been paying contractors. So the money that was in the COVID-19 fund is the first to be spent on that. And then we'll dig into those bond
We
proceeds.
have to have that spent by, is it the end of this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we will definitely have that spent before the end of the year.
Okay.
And the last one here on page 53 under cemetery supplies, we're at 69% spent. And primarily that's driven due to the price that we paid to build those mats to protect the grass at the cemetery. Page 54, there's a few highlighted items here. The first one being in the sewer fund supplies. We're at 64% spent. Just various items there. Oh, the large one is the VACCon truck repair. That costs about $26,000 to repair that truck recently. If you recall, and some of you are new, so you may not recall or know, we did spend a significant amount on a VACCon truck a few years ago. However, we got a good deal on, it was a very expensive truck, but we did get a very good deal. Dale was able to find a great deal on it. So the fact that we're having these large expenses on repairs is not unexpected.
No warranty on that still? Is that?
I don't think so.
It's expired.
So we got a good deal, but now we're paying some repair fees. Directly under there, the contractual services for the sewer plant. This was the $14,070. This was a appropriation addition for the HVAC unit that needed to be replaced at the sewer plant. That's why it's showing 100% spent, because we paid for that last month. And then the next 2 lines are OWDA loan payments. Those are fully paid for the year. The debt service are fully paid for the year, so there will be no more spending on that line until 2027. And the very last yellow line on page 55 has to do with the agency fund, the mayor's court fund, and this is at 68% spent. It's all dependent on mayor's court activity. So unfortunately, I don't have a good guess or crystal ball to figure out how much money to put in that. So I just base it on historical trends. Sometimes we have more than we expect, sometimes less.
All right, any questions for the remaining for the comparison reports? Okay, I think it takes us to the July check register.
Yeah, the check register starts on page 57 of your packet, and I will just go through here and call out any expensive ones that we've had to pay. On page 58, there's a $298,000 charge to the Ohio Water Development Authority. That was 1 semi-annual payment on the loan for the sewer plant.
What are the miscellaneous vendors?
Good question. The miscellaneous vendors, let me find it so I can.
They're right below that.
Right below that. So miscellaneous vendor is a vendor that we use whenever we don't have a typical vendor, if we're paying a refund. In this case, $348.11.
There's 2 of them. There's one for 348 and one
And
for
1420. Okay, so the 348, that is the gym membership stipend that was paid to certain employees. $25 a month if an employee return or brings in their receipt for a gym membership. In the employee handbook, we give them $25 a month reimbursement for that. So that's what that 348 is. It's not even because it's up to $25, and if the employee spends less than that, obviously we only reimburse what they spent. So that's why it's not a full round number. And the 1420.45, That is a refund to Galena for the JRD reimbursement. Is that Galena?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm
So
trying to remember.
Yeah, so it actually was a transfer to the Joint Recreation District account. So it was a payment that we'd received from Galena, got deposited to our account, but needed to go to the Joint Recreation District account. So
So, Mr. Long asked a great question, the miscellaneous vendor. So we don't have a vendor for the rec district or Galena. So when I write them a check or transfer money, instead of creating a new vendor in our system that we're never going to use again, I use the miscellaneous vendor and then just change the name when I put the check in. So that's why you see miscellaneous vendors on the report.
Right below there, it's CBTS LLC.
CBTS, that's Cincinnati Bell Telephone Company, also known as Alta Fiber. We pay them for our phones for the police department and, well, actually for the whole city. We pay them for our phones, and it's split into three because we allocate it to the police department, the admin department, and the sewer department. All right, try and see if there's any other large items here that I can call out. 2K General, we paid $196,000. They're about 3/4 of the way down on page 58. 2K General is the contractor for J.R. Smith Park.
FYDA Freightliner Columbus.
Ida Freightliner, they are the repair company that fixes the Western Star and the VATCon truck. So they're heavy duty truck repairs. Sometimes I can remember the numbers. Let's see. So we paid American Structure Point $76,000. That's on page 60. American Structure Point is one of our consultants and engineers working on the 37 widening project. There's a couple more miscellaneous vendors on page 61. I can talk about those. 10,845. This is the expense that I post for the mayor's court transfer from the agency fund into the general fund. So I have to do a transaction for that in the system so that it goes to the right place. And I have to use a vendor in order to do that. That's why I use a miscellaneous vendor, because it's truly not a vendor. And then below that, we have a miscellaneous vendor charge for $61,500. That is the employee HSA payment. It's from the city to the employees for the second annual payment into the HSA accounts for the employees. So that charge happens twice a year, once in January and once in July. And it's not automatic. I do that every 6 months to make sure that it's going to the right individuals for the right amounts.
When there are people's names on here and they're not miscellaneous vendors, like what would what's the typical reason for someone's name?
If we don't, a miscellaneous vendor would be used instead of a name if we're going to only issue them a check once.
Okay. And then like a first and last name of somebody, is that because that we are regularly sending them a check?
Typically, I do input a vendor for every employee. So if you see an employee's name and they got a reimbursement, then you would see their name there, not miscellaneous vendor. Were there any others that you had questions on, Mr. Long? I can specifically address them if you.
I'm probably just learning myself as I read through them. I've been over the months been seeing people's names and I'm not sure why.
Okay. If you, some names could be a vendor name.
If there's a Deborah Cherry.
Deborah Cherry, that's the vendor name for our cleaning company.
Oh, okay. And Glenn Wilmer? Willer?
Glenn Willer. I believe he is a substitute magistrate for mayor's court.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Long. Thank you, Ms. Steppen. Any other questions on the check register? If not, we'll jump right in the year-to-date fund report.
Year-to-date fund report, thank you. And you go back in your packet, that's on page 56. Not gonna go into any details here, but this is where we stand by fund for, as of July 31st. So if you look in the unexpend column, it's the third column from the right, 25,186,000. That's where our current bank balance sits.
And it's kind of a simplified breakdown on the first page, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Okay.
So you can see if you were to tie the first page number to that number, it should tie exactly.
Good.
25,672. Yeah, the book balance.
Yeah.
Yay! It works. I'm kidding. No, it always works.
Yeah.
Make it.
Okay. Anything else on that? Or we?
I will just talk briefly about the income tax on the first page before we move on to the next sections. Page 1, the income tax breakdown that I have, that table there. As you can see, the current year column, we have a decrease of 6.7% based on the prior year. And that decrease is all going to be in the net profit row. 2026, our net profit year to date is about $268,000. Last year at this time, we had a $691,000 year to date balance. That $691,000 included the large payment that we received due to the sale of the land that is sitting on the east side. So we had that big influx of cash from the net profit due to the sale of the land to the AWS company in a way. So that was the reason for that large influx of cash in 2025. We haven't seen that in 2026. I don't know if we will. So that would be the explanation as to why we're showing a decrease year over year. Oh yeah. But we are increasing overall. Well, not in total tax revenue from last year. We're a little bit down because of that net profit, but I do expect that to bounce back up, and we should see a positive increase next month.
Well, sorry for my dumb question here. So negative 6.7% from a drop from 691 to 268 is greater than a 6.7. So what am I missing?
6.7 is based on the total tax revenue.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That makes sense.
Yeah, that percentage change is based on total taxes.
Right.
Total tax revenue.
So we had an increase in withholding over last year, an increase in individual, but just a significant decrease.
You got
in
it.
Profits. So,
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
That's what I should have said.
No,
You said
that's
it better.
fine. It's just me piecing it together. I apologize. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah, so that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions on the financials before we move on.
Any other questions on financials? If not, I think we get to talk about a skid steer request.
Yes. Jake Stockmaster had put together a memorandum beginning on page 63 of your packet. So this is all from Jake, and we are going to be purchasing a compact track loader instead of various items that were originally budgeted. I don't have a whole lot of information on
I was going to say, so what I had asked is if Jake could at least prepare a memo for the file regarding this purchase. So as Dana indicated, when we did the last budget revision, he decided to consolidate the funding that he had for a couple of other pieces of equipment and apply it toward the purchase of a skid steer. As you can see in here, the $90,000 was budgeted by the council. He's worked out something that's in the $88,000 range. So it's within the budget approved by council already. Again, this is just a memo to kind of document the process that he went through to get the price. And so don't need any action on this. Like I said, mostly just to document the process we went through.
And the following pages were provided by Jake. Pictures of the new machinery that we're looking to purchase.
Yeah, it's pretty sharp.
Yeah.
And the existing attachments we own now are compatible, right?
Yeah.
There's also on page 73 through 75 or through 76 of your packet, a quote summary that Jake had included as well. So you can see the details.
Right.
Just to replace one that exists or?
No, so this is kind of new capacity for the service department. Earlier Dana had referenced that they had constructed some, mats, thank you, for the cemetery. So basically a way to protect the turf as they drive the equipment across it. The skid steer will help them then move them more efficiently than whatever they've got at the moment. So they just feel like, again, more functionality with this than maybe some of the other pieces. So.
That concludes it. Okay, I think, does that then move us to a GIS presentation by Ms. Leatherman?
Yes.
Don't want to steal the thunder.
Leatherman, but I did turn on the mic for her.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say thank you so much, Director Stefan, for giving us a little bit of your finance committee time. This is not a finance presentation. However, today is Vivian's last day for her summer internship. So we weren't able to take it to any of the other wonderful committee meetings. So we appreciate this opportunity to share her experience with this group.
Excellent. Thanks, Carla.
Sure.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good
My name is Vivian Leatherman, and as a reminder, I am a GIS intern. I was placed through Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Committee, MORPC. I'll be going into my senior year at Miami of Ohio, and I apologize. It appears that this PowerPoint is not the most up-to-date screenshots, but it has the same information. It's just the pictures are about a week old. So going into some of the things I did this summer, my first project was working on some trails and sidewalk data. So there it goes. So this is, all right, sorry. This is the first project I worked on this summer. I utilized data from MORPC's Mid-Ohio Open Data System, and I clipped this data to the city of Sunbury's corporate boundaries. I verified this data, all of these line segments, and this was roughly about 1,000 records, where I went and I made sure that this existing data was accurately reflected in what actually exists in the city. So this included updates such as changing sidewalk gaps to where there is now existing sidewalk. And I added planned network for Price Ponds, Eagle Creek, and Eagle Creek Highlands. And this map is zoomed into the main central focus of the city. There is data included in the western portion of the city. You just can't see it on this map. However, if you go to the next slide, this is an interactive web map that has that same exact data, but it's in a web face interface. Whereas that first picture, that was designed to be a printable map on a regular piece of paper. In this website, users can zoom and pan around this website, click on different features and view attributes. So if, for instance, if a user is going to go click on a trail, let's say the General Rosecrans walking path, they're going to see that trail name. They're going to see what type of surface it is. And then for trails that are in the subdivisions, they have subdivision data. And then the planned and sidewalk. Moving on to the next project, I worked with speed data, and I apologize, this picture is not correct. Focusing on I made a dashboard, however, it doesn't accurately display the statistics we would like to display. So we do have the map, and that is symbolized by the proportion of violations at each speed sign location. And this data is from 2024, 2025, and the beginning of 2026. So one problem I faced with this data was the way that the radar signs collected it. This is not properly set up to be public facing. However, it is an asset that can be improved upon. So like I mentioned, one of the downfalls to this data collection was the signs record violations anything over the speed limit. So 1 mile per hour is considered a violation. So that's why it looks like there's so many violations. However, we can also see summary statistics. One of the things that we would like to see with this data is percentiles. And moving forward, we're hoping that we can get that data from the company that the police department uses to get percentile data. And then moving on to the last project I worked on was beginning the implementation of a work order system that is GIS based. This will allow the services team to record data and have it spatially referenced. Currently, data is being recorded on paper sheets, and I actually took that data and I added about roughly 200 points to this website. So that's historical work orders for pothole patches and sign replacements. And this website that is pictured here will be functional for Jake to use. So he'll be able to go in and add open work orders by placing a point on the map and filling out information on what needs done, such as the nearby location, what type of task needs done, what materials are expected to be used, how much materials are expected to be used, so on and so forth. Then employees can go out into the field and use an app called Field Maps. It's by Esri, and they can implement what was actually done in the field. So how much material was actually used, what they used, and specific notes regarding that work. This work order system should be ready to implement. However, it's not, all the kinks have not been worked out, and the city's GIS consultant will be taking over for me, as he helped me through this a lot, which I'm very thankful for. But he will be taking over and fixing or working out all those small kinks as we gain feedback from the team on what we would like to see improvements on and where we would like to go. So for instance, one thing that Jake mentioned to me is making it a way that these tasks can be assigned to specific employees, so there's no confusion when they go in and look at the mobile map. You can go forward. So these are kind of some of those fields that will be filled in, like the department, so streets, utilities, all those things, maintenance notes, work order notes, and then the status of active, open, and closed. And this was my presentation from WorkC, actually. So I'll get into some of the takeaways I had. My main takeaway this summer was I gained a really big appreciation for local government and all the little details that go into making a community thrive. The dedication that I've seen from this team this summer to the city of Sunbury is incredible, and all the kindness that I've been shown by everyone. I'm so grateful. And I learned a lot of GIS. So I showed you 2 web apps. I've never made a web app before, so this is my first experience of making a web app. And college programs teach you mostly GIS and ArcGIS Pro, which is the main software package, and you don't do much work on their online interface. But this summer was mostly in their online interface, so I learned a lot about standard GIS workflows and naming conventions and what standard fields are and all that great stuff that's really going to serve me for my career in GIS. But overall, just I want to say thank you for letting me speak to you all tonight. I'm really pleased that I was able to make really functional deliverables. I appreciate your time listening. I appreciate Dana for letting me take over some finances time. And thank you to the city of Sunbury. This was a really memorable experience for me. I learned so much, and your kindness that you showed me all summer means the world to me. Thank you.
Vivian, thank you for that. I know, so let me just say a little bit more about this. We've talked about this in the services committee, trying to make it a priority to build out a GIS system for the city. So Vivian came on board this year, helped us with that through the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning connection. She did reference another contractor. So we do have an existing agreement with a firm that helps us with the GIS. So as she had questions throughout the summer, she could reach out to that consultant, and he was helping to advise her. So the other value, or I guess benefit of that, is that he understands exactly the work that she's done, and so he can build upon it. It's not going to be sort of a one-off type of activity. It really will be something that we can build upon. She probably didn't say enough about like the significance of the projects themselves. We have been talking about trying to do a trails map in the city forever and a day. I feel like we are virtually there. We do think that that is going to be a web app that we can make visible to the public relatively soon. So when it goes live, we'll let you know. And again, so the public will be able to see this trail map. The other great thing about it is it's got the existing trail system in it, and as she's indicated, where we anticipate future trails that have been approved through the Planning Commission or through council, those have already been captured on the document as well. So as they come online, people will be aware that that's a future possibility. The work order system, this is an item I've been talking to Jake about for at least 3 years, trying to find a way to capture the work that they're doing so that we can report to council and others, the community, really what's happening with our public assets. And Jake would go down a path, he would do a lot of research, and then I'd say, no, I don't think we're prepared to spend that much money on it. Let's, look at another option. And we started to look for another option, and then really this GIS option came available, and there's no additional cost for us to do that. So it really is very cost efficient or effective. Jake likes the direction it's headed. At the moment, it's really about work orders for the service department, but it'll be something we could do with our sanitary team as well. And we're already talking about maybe some things on the code enforcement side could be put in there. So the types of things where people send a request through our website, those could go directly to the work order system and be assigned to an employee. Cindy, did you?
Do those generate reports?
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's the goal, to be able to generate reports.
Yeah.
We can give to leadership.
It's not built into it currently, but it is a goal of the city and the consultant. It can be easily done. It would be that website that I showed the picture of, that is not public facing. But I think the goal is to make a public facing where public can see where work has been done and submit requests.
Yep, that's exactly right. So we'll use the rest of this year to kind of train the staff on it, work out any additional bugs that might exist, and then hope to be able to go live with that, live in terms of the public's visibility early next year. And then the final thing I'll say is on the speed data. So while it isn't all the way where it needs to be quite yet, I think it does actually tell already a good story. I mean, when you look at the number of vehicles that have been tracked over the years, you can see that we are, more consistently, implementing this speed data program. Like I said, there's a little bit of work that still needs to be done on the violation side. We want to use the percentile strategy rather than just the mile per hour strategy. So, but yeah, like I said, so that's probably the one that's not quite as ready to be forward facing. But having said that, we do have a format in place. So working with the police department, we're able to grab the data that they're compiling, put it into the system and be ready to go. At some point, I do anticipate that we would also make that forward facing for people to see. Where have these speed signs been? What kind of data are we getting on that? So again, I think she undersold the projects a little bit. They're all fantastic. And then one other thing we had talked about just a little bit earlier, we are also doing GIS work related to the cemetery and had made pretty significant progress on being able to document where all the graves are, so people will be able to access online this information as opposed to through paper reports, which is the current way of doing it. And then the other one is the zoning map. So it looks like we have started to build out the zoning map online for people to be able to access to, so they could look to see a plan that might have been approved again, so without kind of having to do a records request through the city. So still some work to do on that, but again, these are the projects that are in the works at the moment, and I think they're all priorities that have been identified along the way, and I think really begin to build out our GIS system. So Vivian's been a great addition to the staff. We told her we look forward to seeing her maybe again.
Thank you very much.
Vivian, good job.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Best wishes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. And thank you. Thank you to Carla and Daryl and the rest of the staff helping her along and being her mentor. And again, thank you for providing all the services. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Kim, was there anything else remaining on the schedule that we wanted to cover?
No, I had nothing else.
Okay. Daryl, did you have anything before we?
Nothing else.
Okay, any questions for staff before we wrap this up?
Push for adjournment.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Second by Mr. Long. Discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Goes,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper, Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Rungy.
Yes.
Six yeas, motion approved to adjourn.
I'm good.
Yeah.